Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. An extra hour of analysis and discussion of the topical issues of the week. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy.
Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
It's a Friday, the 29th of March, 2024. This is Spectrum Extra coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90. My name is Kenneth Lukwago Anderson. And this being a Friday, we review the major events of the week. Today we'll be looking at the deepening woes of the NUP and we'll be asking for the best way forward. Well, the conflict within the National Unity Platform Party has continued to deepen, with the latest being the suspension of the Honorable Mathias Mpuuga from the position of Vice President, Buganda Region, by the party President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, who has now referred to the matter to the National Executive Committee, which will seal the fate of Mpuuga. Now, this development came as a shock to many because many thought that the party was going to heed the advice given by the Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, who actually told them to handle this matter carefully, but also resort to dialogue. Earlier in the week, Mpuuga had addressed the media and vowed that no one can kick him out of the party he founded. Moments after his address, the Speaker's office also responded to a notice of NUP that they had decided to remove Mpuuga from the position of Commissioner of Parliament. The Speaker, in the letter responding to the Secretary General of the NUP, said that they have no authority to do that. Their role stops at only nominating the representative, and so they cannot do anything. And if they want to do so, they have to do it through a substantive motion, which must be supported by at least 177 members of Parliament. Now, there are other NUP-linked MPs who are now talking tough, including Dr. Abed Bwanika, who have raised accountability issues, demanding that the party leadership explains how it has spent funds received locally here and abroad. In Masaka, we have two camps now, one loyal to the NUP headquarters and the leadership, and the other one loyal to Mathias Mpuuga. And already we have seen a clash following a meeting they tried to hold, and police had to intervene with tear gas. At the center of this all are allegations that Honorable Mpuuga received 500 million shillings from Parliamentary Commission, which was treated as a reward. His political party says that his decision to receive this money contradicts the leadership code, because he sat in a meeting that decided that he should be awarded this money. But also it's an act of corruption and immorality. Mpuuga has maintained that he has done nothing wrong. So we'll be asking, is this a power struggle or determination by NUP to enforce what it calls value-based politics? We'll also go into the national budget. Yesterday, Parliament received documents indicating that the next national budget, that is 2024-2025, will be 58.3 trillion shillings. The key priorities of the budget: peace and security, road maintenance and construction of strategic roads and the standard gauge railway, electricity transmission, wealth creation activities, social sector financing, and manufacturing, among others. The Ministry of Finance has indicated that government has decided to reduce on borrowing, promote rationalization of government expenditure, especially on consumptive areas such as workshops, travels abroad, among others. They will be investing more money in areas that will help to build the economy, including value addition, ongoing projects, wealth creation, job creation, among others. Now, it's during this sitting of Parliament that it emerged that the executive has decided to slash the budget of Parliament by 50%. The budget had grown from 834 billion in financial year 2021-2022 to 900 billion shillings this financial year. The Speaker, Anita Among, protested and was backed by several MPs who said that this was a total an indication of disrespect to Parliament and also something that interferes with the independence of Parliament. It's not clear if the ministry is acting on instructions of the Chief Minister of Finance, who is the President, who is said to have already had information about what has been going on. And this development comes at the backdrop of that famous parliamentary exhibition. Can one say that these are the fruits of this exhibition? So we'll be looking at those two issues. And I have a panel of three. The Honorable Dr. Mike Sebalu, Team Leader at Africa Integration Agenda. He recently served as District Governor, Rotary District 9213. He represented Uganda at the East African Legislative Assembly, and before that, he was MP for Busiro East. Thank you very much, Honorable Mike Sevalu, for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kenneth, for the invitation. I would like to salute all those following us on various platforms, and I want to believe that you've had an eventful and fruitful Good Friday. So we are here to enjoy and share with you issues of national interest on this Good Friday evening. Enjoy the show.
All right. Also in studio, Dr. Sarah Birete, Chief Executive Officer at the Center for Constitutional Governance, Pandit on Human Rights and Governance Matters. Good evening, and thank you very much for making time to be with us on the show.
Thank you, Kenneth, for inviting me. Good evening, viewers and the listeners. And I hope you've had a blessed Good Friday.
Lastly but not least, Mr. George Musisi is a lawyer and member of the National Unity Platform Party, Pandit on Governance and Human Rights Issues. Good evening, Mr. Musisi, and thank you very much for being with us on the show.
Good evening, Kenneth, and the listeners. Pleasure to be here.
All right, and I think we'll begin with you, Mr. Musisi, since you come from the National Unity Platform
know that this
Party.
One is the hot seat.
It isn't a hot seat. No, it isn't a hot seat. It's a discussion about what is going on in your party. When the party went to Blange Mengo, the party leaders, led by Joel Sanyonyi, to buy the kits for the Kabaka's run, the Katikkiro of Buganda spoke to the leaders there and urged them to embrace dialogue and solve issues that had emerged in the party peacefully. Everyone thought that the party was going to heed that advice. Only 4 hours later, your party leader writing to Mpuga and telling him that he had been suspended. Is it a vendetta? Is it an internal issue that the public does not know? What exactly is going on?
Well, the unfortunate bit, and I was here a couple of weeks ago, Kenneth, and I said that one of the problems we've had with this particular issue is it's been polarized. We've lost track of the issues that we've now diverted to personalities. You've mentioned about the advice. Yes, the advice of the Katikkiro of Buganda, which was meant in good faith and to all parties. I don't think it has been ignored, and I don't think that room is closed for any form of dialogue or an amicable settlement. The biggest challenge is that we've lost what is the issue that the party is accusing Honorable Mpuga of. The party is saying we find this wrong. Honorable Mpuga is answering back. The other people who have joined in, and Honorable Mpuga mentioned in his presser that we should not be looking at, and I agree with him entirely, we should not be looking at Mpuga or Kyagulanyi. We should be looking at the issues and the principles and the party. Most of the people who have come in, of course, are either pro-Mpuga because of it's convenient that this is a chance to attack Kyagulanyi / NUP, or otherwise this is convenient to attack Mpuga. So we've lost track of the real issues. And that's
why would it be convenient for somebody like Dr. Abed Bwanika, a party member, the man who has struggled to be elected and was now elected under NUP? Why would it be convenient?
Well, a political party attracts all sorts of people with all sorts of interests and motives. And they're like that biblical saying that you know them by their works. Why would it be convenient for a member of a party, a member of parliament who is educated, whose literacy and intelligence is not in doubt, to 3 years down the road mention that I don't know whether this party has a constitution. How did you become a member of parliament? We should not. So sometimes you have to question the motive of the speaker. That I'm a head of a party, like Dr. Bwanika, he has a party which he leads, PDP. Even if you do a Google search, it still reveals him. I know the details as a contact person. You leave your party, go and apply for a membership, you apply to be an MP, you elected, and 2-3 years, you can't question that, where is our constitution? So sometimes I'm saying that you have to look at the motives, and I have every reason to doubt the motives of Dr. Bwanika, whom you mentioned, because some of the things they're asking, and for me, that is why I'm saying that the debate is polarized, that we're no longer discussing issues. That one, what was the issue with NUP said, that we have a problem with this service award. And every argument in reply would have been towards justifying or giving reasons why the service award is not okay. But we've gone into, and I have every reason to believe that they're being diversionary deliberately. Because at what point do you ask, and even you can throw all the issues you have with NUP, it's a public way that can be utilized. You can throw accountability issues, you can throw nepotism. Let us discuss them in a fair, say that 1, 2, 3, 4, because NUP, like every political party registered, which receives money from government, actually even those who don't receive money from government, they are under duty and legal obligation to file returns, audited books of accounts. So for you, before you say, give us accountability for a member of parliament, the first thing I would say, what returns have you filed with EC? Let's see whether these returns tally with what has happened. So it's one thing to throw all these big words, but without, more especially, you are questioned if you start, because you mentioned Dr. Abedi Wanika, 3 months ago, he was writing to the Secretary General Bongoya, applying to be a Commissioner of Parliament in December last year. So at what did he know that this party position on homosexuality is not clear? This party is nepotistic. This party is the lacks accountability in December last year. So we have to question the motives to know that some people deliberately are meant to create the rift further, and that is why we find ourselves here, that we're no longer discussing the issue, we're discussing personalities.
All right. Now, let's look at the real issues. People have been asking you to opt for dialogue.
Which is still open.
And using your internal mechanisms as a political party to actually address these issues. But one, people say you lack those internal mechanisms. Two, your leaders have ego and they do not understand what is likely to happen to the political party. Some are actually saying that this is a witch hunt, the way you're handling these issues very quickly, very fast, and pointed.
Let us go to the last one. You're saying it's a witch hunt. I imagine you're saying...
I'm not the one saying.
Okay, I'm saying that the public is saying. You know, for me, I would rather deal with facts than accusations.
And I'm sure you've had that.
I've had that. And when accusation is made, I would prefer to deal with the facts. At what point does the witch hunt begin? At what point? Because Honorable Mpuga, for crying out loud, was appointed by the party and nominated as commissioner 3 months ago. Barely 3 months, actually. The party nominated him. Was that a part of a witch hunt? Honorable Mpuga has been leader of opposition for that party since 2021. Was it 2021 after elections? Was it part of the witch hunt to nominate him? So at what point does the witch hunt begin? That's why I'm saying that it's always important to dissect the facts. If you say that ego, that is a personal opinion. I don't know. I saw the presser from Honorable Mpuga this week. He also threw around some very uncharitable comments. I don't know at what point do you say, so if it's a leadership which has ego, but he has dealt with it. He mentioned, that I've not met my party president, I've not had a chance. Then he went ahead and said, I didn't go for the meeting where I was invited because I didn't receive an agenda. But I'm sure as vice president...
He actually said he didn't think that meeting had any substance.
He has attended, as vice president, he has attended hundreds of meetings. How were they convened? Was the substance prophesied earlier? So that's why I'm saying that we need to look at the facts, and I'd rather deal with the facts than the accusations, because the tone too, the tones thrown across the board could have some harsh words, some across the board, but in every dispute, there's no one who is benefiting from this.
All right.
There's no one who is benefiting from this.
So now he's
lastly,
suspended.
you mentioned that you're saying that the party lacks internal dispute mechanisms. But look at what has happened with Honorable Mpuga himself for the last 6 weeks. There's a small group of colleagues who sit to seek consensus, and they say, this is what happened. Let's try to deal with this. I think for purpose of saving face, seeking consensus is an internal mechanism. He disagreed later on. So they went to the formal structures, subjected to NEC, invited. What do you call that if it's not a mechanism? What do you call that? Do you think mechanisms should be published? What are mechanisms anyway? So for me, I think that even in this issue itself, if you examine it, there have been steps taken. You may disagree with them, but they have been there.
So now, suspension and being taken to NEC, what should we expect from there?
Not the spirit, the suspension. The NEC is to manage the situation, not that you are being taken. But what should we expect from what? From the suspension?
From the entire process, the level where we are.
Of course, it's escalating, and it doesn't help anyone if it escalates. save for people who are funding it for different interests above NUP. So if we can only hope, and I still hope, that there will be a de-escalation, that there will be an amicable settlement. Because like I've mentioned, if the intention of all people across the board is still similar to the intention and principles and core mission of NUP, they can find a middle ground.
All right.
The problem will come if some of the parties to the mediation, the intention is not necessarily saving NUP or the mission of NUP.
All right, I'll be coming back to you. But now let's go to Dr. Sarah Birete. Dr. Sarah Birete, what's your reading of this situation where we are now? We thought NUP was open to advice, but now they are moving on with their internal processes. As we speak, I'm told the fate of Matthias Mpuga, either to be expelled or to remain in the party, will be sealed by this meeting where he has been referred by the party president.
I think we should draw comparisons with what we have experienced in the past. In 2012, the NRM party attempted to expel the 3 rebel MPs arising from internal contradictions. They went through the internal processes as a party. They wrote to Parliament, and the Speaker told them they have no power. They went to court and lost up to Supreme Court level. What lessons do we learn from that experience?
There's a difference here now.
What's the difference?
The difference is you are dealing with a matter that is touching a member of parliament, but now we are doing with a leadership issue within a political party, where we are told actually the party president has the power to appoint and also disappoint.
Yes, I was coming to that. So given that, as a member of Parliament on NUP ticket, the party running from that incidence of rebel MPs, the party cannot expel him from that.
From Parliament?
Yeah, it's only Mpuga who can, in May next year, choose to take another platform, and that's the window for crossing for MPs without losing their seats. So when you come from that background, the position that NUP controls, of course, they failed with the commissioner process recall. Also, there are precedents to that. FDC previously, 2019, 2017, failed to recall its commissioners.
Cecilia Ogwal, the late Cecilia Ogwal.
Yeah. So that's also the history that we should learn from. So now NUP has realized that maybe they control the vice president's docket. I haven't read their constitution, but as a member of the public, I differ when a punishment is vested on an individual without a hearing process. So when you wake up as a party and suspend, you have punished somebody. Was he heard? Because the process that we know about is the process of commissioner, recall as commissioner. So when they failed to recall as commissioner, they moved to vice president. So when a party president gets up and says, I've suspended you, waiting the process, referring the matter to NEC. Why don't you first refer the matter to NEC? Why can't NEC then take a decision? Why do you take a decision as an individual? That's my concern as a member of the public. NUP stands and draws a lot of support from their slogan, removing a dictator, which excites all of us. Dictatorship means a one-man show, in simple terms. So when again we see a one-man show in NUP, we get scared. I don't want to see that, because I believe in the other slogan of removing a dictator. So I don't want to see a one-man show in NUP. So when I don't know whether it's the fault in their constitution, but the rules of natural justice demand that you hear a person before punishing them. You don't punish and then refer for hearing. So I have a differing point on that. When it comes generally to multi-party politics, parties build, develop and grow based on the strength of values, systems, and their ideology, political ideology. In implementing these 3 principles, The leadership of parties should seek common ground, should foster understanding, should make sure that their decisions are fair and inclusive. The process of Mpuga has a mixture of public perceptions, public sympathy, or public mob saying, agende, he must go, he must go. And then you have also another player in the Mpuga saga, which is Parliament, an institution of Parliament. So Mpuga saga is not per se a matter of NUP. It's a national matter. Because the crime scene is an institution of Parliament. The crime scene is not NUP headquarters or NUP party branches. So when you look at the matter in that way, there were attempts to debate whatever had transpired in Parliament on the floor of the House. I don't know, it seems Parliament, when it reconvened, it's busy fighting with the Ministry of Finance because of the budget, instead of focusing on matters where they broke off. When it comes to people relations with Parliament, there are two key issues that now the public would be interested in. One is still the pending issue of missing persons, because we closed the year when NUP had made a big progress on the push for accountability for human rights. That battle is now seems to be swept under the carpet. Because when the year resumed, I did not see a resumption of the matter on where Parliament recessed, on whether to entrust the Human Rights Commission with investigation on gross human rights violations, including kidnaps, missing persons, extrajudicial killings, and other matters as they had cited. They had put 8 issues. That battle, I don't know how we lost it as an interested member of the public. The other issue of high interest is the issue of management of funds or mismanagement of funds in Parliament, where now the Mpuga saga arises from. That's why I'm saying that the scene of crime is not NUP.
Right.
It is Parliament.
All right. Dr. Sarah Birete, do hold your thoughts there. When we return, I'll give you an opportunity to actually conclude your submission. This is Spectrum Extra, Radio 1 FM 90. We're going for a break now. When we return, Dr. Sarah Birete will conclude her remarks on this issue. We'll bring in Dr. Mike Sebalu, and then Mr. George Musisi will be responding to some of these issues and also your views as they come in via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. Spectrum Extra continues after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra. The discussion is continuing off air there. Dr. Sarah Birete asserting that Honorable Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu acted in a dictatorial manner to actually suspend the Honorable Mpuga.
I'm against the one-man decision.
Let's allow you to conclude that point, Dr.
So
Sarah.
as I conclude, I would be interested as a suspecting member of the public to see a process of debate of mismanagement of funds in the House. I know that NUP does not have majority in Parliament, but at least they can attempt to ask for present a motion. There should be a process. A formal process of discussion of mismanagement of funds in Parliament. And Mpuga then is part of that discussion.
Did you see the other day the leader of opposition, Joel Senyonyi, raising these issues in the House?
I saw, and they were told that
did you see how it ended?
Yes, I know the speaker denied them debate. I was watching and said they will debate that. She had said they finish what the policy statements, laying of policy statements on table, then debate. Later she adjourned the House for 2 weeks. Have those 2 weeks ended? If they've ended, why? I want to see an attempt
we are still in the
to have a
process.
debate of mismanagement of funds in Parliament.
All right. Let's hear from the Honorable Dr. Mike Sebalu. Honorable Mike Sebalu, we did have a discussion about this issue the previous week. You were on this show and you shared your views, and you actually gave constructive advice saying that they needed to actually have dialogue internally to resolve this issue. But this is where we are.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. It is a bigger issue It is a bigger issue, and I'm on record during the elections where I did indicate that there is a difference between popularity and leadership. You may be popular, but you may not be a good leader. You may be a good leader without necessarily not being popular. Actually, some of the good leaders may not be popular because they take positions that are needed, not positions that are wanted. There are situations where leaders say what people want to hear. But there are also situations where good leaders say what people want to hear, what people need to hear, even when they may not want to hear it. So I shared that viewpoint and we were on this platform. Remember one day when my colleagues had moved, these colleagues who are in DP, and at one point they were in Subi, and at one point there was in something else, DP block. And then this time around, they jumped on the bandwagon of NUP because they wanted to retain positions rather than pursuing a politics of ideology. So rather than sticking to ideology of what they believe in, what they understand, what they appreciate, and what they stand for, they simply jumped on a bandwagon that was driven by a wave of populism, and these are the consequences of such opportunistic positions. And I did indicate then, like I'm indicating now, that it would be a question of time for mistrust and uncoordinated engagements to bear fruits. So I blame the DP bloc members who simply abandoned their political party of long standing and jumped on a wave simply to gain and retain positions of members of parliament. What they are doing now and what Mpuga is stating now is what I expected him to do during the DP, fighting from within. That is what he ought to have done earlier on, working within the DP framework to clean DP and make it what he wants it to be. Now he's finding himself in a catch-22. Why didn't you apply the same political wisdom of using the party structures under DP to remain there? So what they did is akin of the Kenyan experience, where every other election you get leaders jumping on new outfit, what they call party hopping. Party hopping is not sustainable. No one will ever trust you. From the day one, when the DP bloc joined NUP, believe you me, members of NUP original knew these guys were up to something, knew these guys had a game plan that maybe would suffocate them or undermine them. So there was bound to be mistrust right from word go. So the party hopping principle is not sustainable. People will always feel there is something you are not opening up to, or there is something that is not right, or there is something that you are up to below your sleeves. So that is a bit of a problem. And I knew something like that would happen. Now, for a party like NUP, and what I want to advise them is from the word go to try and stick to systems, principles, procedures, and clear processes. Because at the formative stage, if they go into a situation of the principle has said, the principle can never be wrong, the principle is always right, individuals do change. In any organization, you are safer trusting systems because individuals can change in outlook, in interest, in aspirations, or in motivations. So I would like to encourage that the idea of opening up systematic way of engaging any challenge is something that needs to be appreciated so that you create precedents. Because going forward, people are going to fall back to decisions that have been taken now emotionally, which have not applied the principle of fairness, the right to be heard. I think these are things they can avoid and be good to go. Now, the issue of the dynamics at play. There are certain dynamics which I also saw coming. Maybe in the future, we may need to amend the constitution of Uganda to allow a presidential candidate who happens to be the runners-up with the majority of votes below the winning candidate to be automatically a member of parliament so that they can lead from within parliament. Because I can tell you there are also contradictions because of the pecs, because of the stature, because of the protocol that comes with the leader of opposition. Look at this scenario. If a leader is not very mature, very understanding, and very reasonable, you see someone you delegated to be a leader of opposition enjoying a good fleet of motorized convoy with security detail. Someone is already enjoying very good placement within the national protocol. You may be at an occasion where by matter of protocol you are not recognized, but someone you delegated is recognized because he's part of the national protocol. Someone has a budget. Someone has a platform, which is parliament. If you are not a very strong, mature, reasonable, and steady president of the party in opposition, these kind of things can destabilize you. And the naysayers can easily recruit you into a belief that the other person is up for something, is preparing something. Don't you see how he's enjoying the convoy? Don't you see how he's interacting with government leaders? And yet, by official position, the leader of opposition has to be in tandem, has to be in a conversation with the prime minister, with the speaker. So this can be misunderstood because your leader may interpret it in a manner that you are trying to build a strong political base for yourself and maybe eyeing the position of the leader. So there is also that challenge. If the leader is not really up to the mark, you are easily drawn into this petty belief and behavior and discussions that can have the effect of widening the gap between you and your delegated leader of opposition in parliament.
All right.
And I'm seeing these factors playing because the conversation has been rife that Mpuga is up to something.
All right.
Mpuga has MPs behind him. But as a leader of opposition in parliament, he's likely to have influence over members of parliament, not necessarily for wrong reasons, but as a mobilization to ensure that what the party stands for in parliament is well put, is well appreciated, and well achieved.
All right. From Dr. Sarah Birete, an issue arises, internal processes, but also what so many other people are saying, maybe leaders in NUP are becoming vindictive. You're shifting goals. You were first dealing with the issue of parliamentary commission. Now you've shifted your gears very quickly. You are now in suspension and probably looking at pushing Mpuga out of the party. Honorable Mike Sebalu raises the issue of systems, but also party hopping, and then the wave.
Yes.
Are you really a political party? Do you have a constitution? Do you have mechanisms? We have had some people actually saying you're members of NEC. Some people, they don't understand. Actually, one of the leaders said that MPs are not NEC members, and yet they are people who form the cream when you look at how political parties are managed in different parts of this world. Okay. How would you respond to these issues?
Let me respond to the issues. One, Sarah says there is suspension without a hearing. First of all, the only issue, others may be insinuations, innuendos, and interpretations. The only issue that the party has formally stated against Honorable Mpuga is the issue of the service award. Nothing else. In reply, Honorable Mpuga has raised several of his own. But the only issue that the party has stuck on has been the issue of the service awards. And these are the same set of facts. But even if we go with the argument of that suspension without a notice, actually, courts in Uganda have given judicial acceptance to that position. If personally I disagree with it, but courts have given judicial acceptance. If you go to Makerere University, Sarah, the regulations give the vice chancellor a right to suspend, then send you to disciplinary committee. I've challenged them in court, and courts have agreed with the regulations.
What does the NUP Constitution say?
The new Constitution says this, gives the president powers. Of course, the new Constitution, which was approved, which reduces the president's powers, approved by NUP, has not yet got a green light from the Electoral Commission.
I have heard from other sources that under the NUP Constitution, the party president is only a presidential candidate. The day-to-day running of the political party is supposed to be done by the deputy president.
I can share with the Constitution.
Please do. Share with
but I need to clarify that there's an amendment which was done by the membership, and sent to the EC, but it hasn't yet got a green light. So they're still using the old Constitution. So, but be that as it may, these issues arose from the same set of facts, and this has been the only issue that has been going on and on. And actually, Honorable Mpuga has given a position formally in writing to the party. He has responded in writing to the party, to this
commissioner, not as deputy. The issue,
Sarah, you are distinguishing, because when they call you for that
I think Sarah, before Mpuga becomes a commissioner,
yes,
he's a member of NUP.
And listen, even actually, this one is even about conduct. The provision on 5.4b, which the president said quoted, it's about conduct of any member. But when you are called to court for charges, you're not called. I'm using that as an analogy. I hope people don't misinterpret me and say there's a crime now. You know, people sometimes can be petty, but they don't call you with the end in mind. So they didn't call Mpuga that come and explain as a commissioner for what you did. They called Mpuga the member, and that's why they are saying that these things don't represent us, our values. That is the essence. So the issue of hearing cannot arise because, like I've mentioned, Honorable Mpuga.
Do you allow me to ask?
Yes, you can ask.
You can chip in.
For instance, if Mpuga had accepted to resign as a commissioner, would he have stayed as a deputy president?
That would have been another issue to discuss.
So the judgment of indiscipline, doesn't it? If, for instance, if you're an indisciplined person, do you retain one or the other?
But now we are being presumptuous.
Or it would have been.
I can't discuss what would have happened when it didn't happen.
But because then you applied the principle to a given act and a given office. Now, having not gotten it your way there, you are looking at.
You're following him in different angles.
Let me explain, because Honorable Mike, you had now you are submitting. It's not information.
Okay, a small submission.
Okay.
I would have thought that from the word go, it would have been you've discredited our party, so
get out.
We want you to resign or forfeit the two positions: one, commissioner, and two, party, because deputy party president is even bigger. And if you are discredited, I think it carries a lot of. But that is my viewpoint. Anyway.
I get you, Honorable Mike. The issue is the constitutional provision doesn't even talk about deputy president if conducts themselves in this way, or a commissioner. It talks about a member. And for me, so I wanted to respond to the issue of whether there was a hearing before such a one-man show. Because on one hand, you are saying there have been these processes. We've called you to NEC. He didn't come, but he sent a written reply. So then how can that be a one-man show? Secondly, I agree. The only thing I agree with Sarah was regarding the issue of Parliament. That Sarah says that by the time Parliament closed off, we had that debate, which was of missing persons and human rights abuses. And of course, on the floor, it was kind of mixed up. It had a very, very bad anticlimax, where they said, okay, we refer it to our Human Rights Committee or UHRC. Then the Speaker said, I'm going to meet the UHRC chair. I think the first time, the UHRC said, I'm not with my people. And then it ended there. And then, of course, with the new year, it has brought in different things. That's why some of us decided to go to court. that we say that Parliament has not given us a logical conclusion that we expected. And we took the matter to court, and it's coming up in court next week. Because we realized that it was caught up, just like this very issue, in the politics. You saw that even the government response, actually that is one good example. The government response was not about missing persons. It was, NUP sometimes uses this politics. Some people go for GAU. So we say that we have lost track of the issue. Let us go to where we think we can get some bit of this whole. I wanted to comment about Dr. Mike talks about the issue of popularity, leadership, wave of populism. Now, and it has been used. First of all, I don't see a problem with a person moving from one party to another. The essence of being in a party is a party may move away from what I stand for. It could be the party which, like General Mugisha Muntu said, the dominant wave, in quote unquote, in FDC doesn't represent our interest. We believe in this. It's very healthy because the essence of political parties is not to be there as a dogma, but to take you to where you want to be. I may change my opinions, just as a party may change its outlook, and it's very normal. Actually, even the Kenyan, because this essence of looking at parties as dogmatic, that I'm DP, people change. Parties, the essence of parties is to take me to where I want to be. If I think that it no longer represents those aspirations, I should move. In any case, in our fledgling democracies, which have, because we have democracy really fledgling, we've never had multipartism practiced because government does not allow multipartism to play the way it should play. You see, we are always using parties to open an office. You have to negotiate with police. You negotiate with another DC. We're in a multi-party dispensation. So, but ideally, in a multi-party dispensation, a party should be bigger than any person. For crying out loud, we had ANC asking 2 sitting presidents to step aside. Sitting presidents, you're talking about vice president and commissioner. A sitting president, and the party pushed him aside. Was that witch hunt? So, they could be politics. But let's leave the innuendos and look at what the people are saying on the table. But this issue of populism and some of the people you even highlighted maybe have this essence of saying that you're now more experienced, and it comes out from Honorable Mpoga's statements. He has said it, public statements, ever since even the last presser. The condescending tone of saying, we need to listen to us. We've been more experienced. In a democracy, what defines leadership, and that's the wish of democracy, is who the people have chosen. Simple as that. In kingdoms and monarchies, the dying is discussed differently. That this is next in line, this is third in line. The moment you subject yourself to democracy, even you, Kenneth Lukwago, with all your education, as long as you go and stand for LC, and they bring a chapati seller, and the people choose that one, you cannot go on begrudging, how can you choose a chapati seller over me? That is what the people are choosing. So this essence of saying a wave, even a geographical wave, by the way, has an explanation why it comes about.
And what people are saying, there has never been competition for leadership in NUP, and probably some people are saying that maybe Mpuga was a threat.
Okay, let us examine that. Like I said, we need to examine that. NUP, since becoming NUP, is about 4 or 5 years old, since the change of name. So I know I participated in the court battle where even on the eve of nomination, actually MPs were nominated before NUP's legal status was ascertained. We've been in battle after another. Then you go into an election with an uncertain status. The judgment came after nomination. Then you go into so where has been the chance of
and we are going into another election when you are still in the same situation.
So you are saying that there's been a change. Okay, which party has had elections in the last 3 years?
Are you a political party, NUP?
Is that a question? Political parties are registered by EC. How can a party participate in elections without being a party? What becomes a party is in fact I hear
some people say what defines a party is the internal mechanisms and also the constitution. Yes, and I can tell you. Let me tell you and tell some of those people who have the people you cited. Electoral Commission cannot register you. Cannot allow you to even participate as a party without a constitution. That is basic. It's akin to saying
this company has a certificate by URSB but has no memorandum and articles, it's mandatory. So when I hear a party leader, a member of parliament saying we have no constitution, I'm at a loss of words to respond. So what I'm saying, let me quickly, because you talked about NEC, there's an impression which has been created, I think because of the NRM dogma politics, that it's mandatory for party to have something called NEC, Women's League, that NEC should have MPs.
What is in your constitution?
What are the structures of NUP?
NEC is there, but it's made. NEC is made up of about 39 people. It makes up of the president, the deputy president, the deputy presidents, the secretary general, and the secretaries of the different entities, Women's League, Information Secretary. So, who says that there is no law which says that NEC should be comprised of this? There is no law which says that. So each party can have its own as long as the constitution is approved by EC. So the party is supposed to follow as per. So the essence of saying that NEC should be comprised of this and this and this, it's misleading. It's misleading.
All right. Just one more question. Under what category is Nubian Lee a member of NEC? We hear there's somebody called Mickey Wine.
That is a lie. Mickey Wine, it's a lie.
We hear somebody called...
You hear it from Abedi Bwanika. Abedi Bwanika told lies. Because he even told lies about me and I've taken him to court. He told lies about me publicly. So he talked about... you hear it from Abedi Bwanika. And I'm telling you, Mickey Wine is not a member. The only person, the only relative of Honorable Chagulanyi is Fred Nyanzi. Mickey Wine is not a member of NEC. Yes.
All right. Sarah, you have to chip in.
I would like to know, first of all, what are the structures of NEC? Because
of
NUP, sorry. You hear NUP MPs saying they don't belong to any structure of the party. And I think if there is... Yeah, so, but that it's here, say, like I say, because personally I haven't read...
Is that strange if the constitution does not provide for them?
Yes, because these are people who contribute to money annually. People contribute. These are national leaders, first of all. MPs are national leaders. Two, these are people who held the flag of a party in the constituencies where they stood.
And how did they get the flags in this party with that?
I'm saying why I want to know what structure.
In other political parties like NRM, they are automatic chairpersons of the party in the constituency.
That's why I'm asking, where do they belong? So they are national leaders. They held the flag of a party in the constituencies. They contribute money monthly to the party, and the national funds, the taxpayers' money that comes to the party is because of these MPs. Yes, the numerical strength of these MPs. So basically they are the ones who run like 80% financial obligations of a party.
Stakeholders.
So where do they belong in the day-to-day running?
The Ugandans who pay the taxes who come there.
No, but you get 1-point-something billion from
Ugandans' money, not MPs' money. Ugandans taxpayers.
Because of numerical. Because how do they get it? Numerical.
You are getting the money from the consolidated fund because you have MPs.
Yes. So how did they get to Parliament?
No, I'm
how did they get to Parliament?
Which structures do they belong?
Do they belong to any structure in NUP?
The caucus, the parliamentary caucus is under the law.
But it is not a structure of the party.
Now, let me tell you, what I discussed earlier, I mentioned that the constitution of NUP was amended last year.
All right.
And approved by the membership, including the MPs. All the MPs, the committee was chaired by Honorable Medal.
Do those amendments respond to some of these issues?
Exactly. Okay. Actually, the amendments reduced completely the president's powers. They were targeted to reduce the president's powers. Only that amendment, like I've mentioned, has not been given a final go-ahead from the Electoral Commission. But it substantially reduced the president's powers.
Yeah, do they create a structure for
Yes.
I was getting disturbed.
Please, you don't be disturbed when you're near me.
No, for you, because members of parliament define the strength of the party in terms of national outlook. Contribute funds, are national leaders. So
they articulate the party position on the floor.
Even the manifesto of the party is pursued.
But I'm not in any way trying to belittle we are not discussing the importance of MPs.
Gap, which you took a bit lightly, and I was getting disturbed because seriously, it is in the best interest of building.
It is, sir. It's a fact.
Of the party using that.
allocation is because of the MPs.
Yes,
And
that's
the
true.
numbers,
So
you are getting more money because you have more MPs, not because the people. You could even have a big vote nationally, let's say the presidential, but if you don't have many MPs, you may end up with no money,
So the party
which is a
run
very
by
interesting
MPs,
thing.
literally.
All right, Spectrum
so,
Extra.
so
on
then
Radio
the
1.
party, the MPs should be the
There's
governing
there's
government party. Is that what
no,
your
no,
point?
no. They
When
are
Sarah says that the party is run by MPs,
Their stakeholders should be within the
They
strategic
should be within the
structures of the party.
Because 70% of
but
the
that
budget
question is answered.
from MPs.
Yeah, okay.
It's from
But
Ugandans, not from
Very
MPs.
quickly, Honorable Mike
There's
Sebalu.
something, because we are looking within NUP, there's this politics that is emerging, the politics of the we and they, and it is coming because of the originality of the concept. Maybe you find there are historicals of NUP,
The founders.
and there are those that
Are just
joined
coming
around Entebbe Road, as we usually joke around.
Like in NRM.
And
Are you saying?
the members who are hitherto DP block feel threatened wherever they are, and actually even there is a conversation around Musisi and Namboze, because Musisi is closer to the principal. Namboze is part of those. So those dynamics
Honorable Mike.
are very interesting.
All right.
You mentioned something about
Let's go for the break now. When we return from the break, we will hear the views that are coming in from the listeners, and then we'll wrap up the discussion about NUP issues and then continue to our next topic. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. When we return, Mr. George Misisi, you'll have your say as we respond to the issues. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra continues after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. My guest, Dr. Mike Sebalu, team leader at the Africa Integration Agenda. Dr. Sarah Bidete, the Chief Executive Officer at the Center for Constitutional Governance. Mr. George Musisi, lawyer and member of the National Unity Platform Party. We're still looking at the deepening wars of the ANUP and the best way forward. And before we went for the break, the panelists had actually submitted their views, and we were at a point where Honorable Mike Sebalu had interjected, suggesting that there could be dynamics where some people who were originally in the party are struggling to maintain pressure that is being exerted by those that came in later, especially from the DP group. What does this mean? Is this the internal party struggle that we are looking at? Are we likely to see a more organized NUP before 2026? Are they likely to have a new constitution? Are we going to see party primaries? Because last time there was nothing like that. Those are so many questions that are on the lips of very many people going by the kind of discussion that we have had on this issue. You've been sending us comments on the WhatsApp line, and right now I'll read out some of those, and then the panelists will respond. I'll begin with Neighbors. I like George. He is articulate, factual, reasonable, and to the point. He should be the NUP spokesperson. Well, somebody there actually recommending you for a job at NUP. And who is now the spokesperson? I'm thinking that by appointing Joel Senyonyi as LOP, he has so much under him that he may not find time to respond even to calls that come in to clarify on some of these issues. And you seem to be doing it well.
The Honorable, of course, there's no problem having a variety of, but the Honorable Joel Senyonyi is still effectively handling that job. And as and when there's need to.
Is it because he's a founder of the party? Some things that Honorable Mike Sebalu was talking about, people cannot be touched?
Well, the Honorable, the Shadow Minister of Information is the Honorable Helen Nachimuli from Kalangala. How comes you're not talking about her?
But would you consider being the NUP spokesperson? Somebody seems to be interested in you actually becoming one. Let's look at some other comments. Kagawa Muzaha writes in and says, actions and reactions are equal and opposites, says Newton's law. Mpuga will triumph, but NUP will lose in his area of jurisdiction. Let the top leadership hurry slowly to make decisions which will affect the party. That is Kagawa Muzahama, who is listening in from Iganga there. What are the likely dynamics 2026? Will NUP face challenges here in Buganda where it enjoyed a lion's share from the previous elections? We have another comment. I understand, listening to Sarah, you can't help thinking she's a victim of the common communication mistake of listening to respond rather than to understand first. I thought Council Musisi gave such a beautiful background to the Mpuga saga. I understand that she came with a position that she has chosen to stick with, even with the clarity provided by Musisi. That's a comment from Dennis there. Somebody thinks Dr. Sarah Birete, you are sticking to a certain position which you came with and you're not open to any new ideas that are coming in. We have a comment coming in from Okello Patrick Bonyo, listening in from Busega. NUP is trying to play a clean politics in a data environment, and I see NUP facing immense challenge, and by the time they reach 2025, the crack in the party will be wider. Remember, NRM PLU is sleeping. NUP was formed in a radical slogan, the dictator must go. But the dictator is still around, and what do you tell your cheer supporters? Sacrifice one member or to please the cheer supporters. FDC tried that method, and it has backfired on them. Let's practice the politics of tolerance, where even the bad leaders can also reform to poll. That's a comment there from Okello Patrick Bonyo in Busega. We have a comment coming in from Park. Is Honorable Mike Sebalu a lecturer somewhere? I like his analysis and advice to NUP, DP, Party, and Impuga. This is Alan with that comment. He says, it's crazy how the debate shifted from parliament corruption to now bashing NUP or Bobby Wine fighting Mpuga. That's a comment from Alan there, also wondering why the debate shifted. Crispus writes in and says, good evening, Spectrum Extra. Some of the fracas happening in NUP is almost making some of us to forgive Obote because whatever he said is getting proved right. Well, somebody is going tribal here saying a Muganda can't fight a fellow Muganda like that, to the extent of even the Catholic Church chiefs and even the Cathedral coming out to condemn, but the one responsible just paying a deaf ear to the criticism. Kyagulanyi should not hoodwink anybody that he's perfect. He also makes mistakes. That's a comment there from Crispus there, who is talking about the numerous attempts to talk down the issue that have gone on without NUP listening. Mr. Kenneth, thank you for the show. Sincerely speaking, I do agree with Madam Sarah. Always dialogue within the party organs should be done first rather than referring to them after the party president making a statement. Otherwise, Mr. Kyagulanyi is right, but the way he handles issues should change. He should be the last person to speak after dialogue within the party organs when they fail to handle such issues. And that was the kind of message that Honorable Medad Segona put across and said the party president should be the last one to speak wherever issues emerge. So many other comments coming in, but let's deal with that round first, and I'll come to you, Dr. Sarah Birete, first before we hear from the others. What would be your reaction to some of these comments and probably Dennis, sharing your wider views on this topic?
Yeah, Dennis says I came with a certain position. My position as a constitutional watchdog, I get scared when I see a one man taking a decision and he's at the top and then referring his decision to the lower organ. I get scared. Whether that is in NUP constitution or not, it is very forte. The top man should speak when the lower organs have processed issues. You don't again speak, suspend, then refer. That one worries me. And if it is in NUP's constitution, they should at least change it by practice. It does not augur well in terms of a culture of constitutionalism. Whether that is a perceived position or not, it is a position known in law and principles of natural justice. And it cannot be amended. If there are faults, they should be rectified at least through procedure. There was a second comment on dynamics in Buganda.
What's likely to happen to NUP with this conflict being among Baganda?
It's too early to tell, but there are issues that we should take note of. NUP draws its strength from Buganda. NUP has 57 MPs. 56 of them are from Buganda. Some of these MPs have their personal weaknesses in terms of performance and delivering, both in the constituents and parliament. And that's why we have a higher turnover. Generally, in every parliamentary election, there's always a higher turnover of about 75% and above. Last year, it was 83% turnover of MPs. So how many of NUP MPs, given the controversies that are now seated in their biggest constituents, how will the controversies impact on the turnover of their MPs or even new ones who are likely to emerge? Will their performance improve or it will decline? I think those are questions that will be answered through the ballot in 2026.
I have had some people actually weighing in into that discussion on whether they were actually voting for NUP or they were voting for these people because they had been campaigned for by Kyagulanyi. What's your reading? I've had some people like Dr. Abed Bwanika saying, if you don't give me a ticket, do you think I was elected because of the NUP ticket? I've had those questions coming out. Do you think we are likely to see that shift in power?
Well, the truth of the matter is that there was a wave in Buganda. There was a wave. Some people, even who were voted on NUP ticket, even people were looking for umbrella. I was an observer in the last elections. People were just saying, show me where the umbrella is, and they were ticking without even reading the name. Where is the umbrella? Where is the umbrella? Including Indians of, Ugandans of Indian origin. Show me the umbrella, show me the umbrella. I witnessed that. So there was a wave that we cannot discount. Will that wave be there in the next elections? Maybe not. Will NUP retain its hold on Uganda? Will it increase its numbers? Because a party strength is weighed through the numbers of elected leaders. So will it retain 56? Will it increase that to maybe 100? Will it decline? And there will be an impact of what is happening because the playing ground is still Uganda, and that is their stronghold as a party.
Honorable Mike Sebalu, if you can weigh in.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it is always important to consolidate your area of strength. In any, be it an organization, be it a market, be it anything, any good leadership should work towards consolidating what is working for you and expand it and use it as a center of gravity to reach out other areas. The dynamics and the situation on the ground is such that this becomes a contested area, even within the party. Different viewpoints are coming up, which then is likely to create contradictions during the electoral process. Already, there is a very serious question within NUP of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Many of the leaders outside Buganda do believe that Buganda is more favored within the NUP distribution of
favored for
victory.
what? Favored for what?
No, they imagine, and these discussions you've had them, that all the big positions have gone to people from this area. They've always talked about the ministries, the
shadow cabinet.
Shadow cabinet.
But what would you do if that is the group that you have in parliament?
No, but still, you need to look at. There are people from Busoga. There are people from Bale. There was a time when they believed that the new opposition chief whip Nambeshe maybe ought to have gotten something bigger than that. You've had these discussions coming up. You had Busoga.
Nambeshe is a vice president. He's also the chief whip of the opposition in parliament.
Yeah.
They wanted him to become what? The leader of opposition?
Actually, they wanted him to be leader of opposition. And the conversations were on. They wanted Busoga have been saying that they've never gotten anything big. You've had this. So once you have that kind of conversation, you need to bring calm within the camp so that you explain yourself, people get to appreciate, so that you read from the same page. But when you have these dynamics coming up and contradictions, they take away your right to engage consensus building and a way forward based on common understanding and common interest.
Mr. Musisi, your take on and response to some of the issues that have come across.
Well, no one can...
One of the most important things coming out is whether NUP will be the same in 2026, especially in areas where it emerged victorious in the last elections.
Of course, that one, short of the prophet, no one can determine with certainty where Kenneth will be tomorrow. But the point is, the party is insisting on this position, saying that this is where we want to take. If there is any other position, it's for other political issues. If you're saying that with the only problem we have with Honorable Mpuuga is because of this and this, So if Honorable Mpuga also has issues, it's important that they brought on the line. So certainly I told you that in any fight, no one benefits. Even if I beat you, I will go with some bruises or dirty shot. So NOP doesn't benefit from an incantation. Neither does Honorable Mpuga benefit. But I also don't want to... people have created the impression that, because of this one, you're going to lose... But Honorable Mpuga supported TDA in 2016. Did he deliver Masaka to Honorable Mbabazi? So you are journalists, you should be asking these questions. Honorable Mpuga has been fighting with the mayor of Masaka. Haven't you seen groups coming? We are pro-Mpuga, against Mpuga. Haven't you seen them fighting? So the impression that this Masaka is...
There are rumors the mayor of Masaka can act...
I don't want to act on rumors. I'd rather deal with
the
facts.
vice president of the party.
I don't want to deal with rumors. I'd rather deal with facts. So what I'm saying, why I bring this up, is that the impression that Honorable Mpuga has Masaka under his thumb and goal is also not accurate, like you've portrayed it. Because there's a camp of Namayanja which doesn't augur well with Honorable Mpuga. It's the duty of NUP to ensure that those issues are all resolved, because no one benefits from a fight.
All right.
That's why I'm saying that no one benefits. But then again, people are watching and people can need out facts. That's why for me, I'm reluctant to say this. People say the wave. The wave has an explanation, because those were people voting. They are not people who were herded into. Those are people voting, and they voted consciously.
All right, we still have more comments coming in, and we have a comment from Henry who says, Kenneth, well done. Now, the problem with Mr. Kyagulanyi is interpretation of the clause not allowing the beneficiary to negotiate rewards. The Parliamentary Commission is allowed to negotiate for the entire Parliament, including members of the committee who are MPs, who should negotiate for MPs' benefits to avoid them getting involved. That is Henry Chiwenda there, who is asking who should negotiate for the MPs. Can we have a mechanism where the emoluments of MPs are actually determined by somebody else and not through the Parliamentary Commission? We have a comment coming in from Richard, who says the elites like Dr. Sarah Birete and Sebalu are worse than the ordinary Ugandan. At their level, they should be able to guide the citizenry on the core cause of the issues in NUP, FDC, and DP. Lest we miss the true cancer. The friction is artificial, and who is responsible? NRM, Museveni, and Among have been at the helm of these issues. Meanwhile, kudos to Musisi, the man is doing well on the show. Much love. That is Richard there with that comment. That we seem to be missing the point. There's one man who actually said that maybe political parties there will be no opposition in Uganda by the last elections, but we are going to another election. Could he be the problem, according to Richard here, who is asking questions? We have Kauma with another comment. Good evening, Spectrum. You are having that debate because of flawed elections in the country. If elections in Uganda were straight, we will not be having such a debate. The irony is we are just over 1 year to the general elections, but there is no debate on the way elections should be conducted in the country. That's Kauma Digo listening in from Mitiana. Sharp writes in and says, Senyonyi made an insensitive statement about chapati sellers. Some of us are chapati sellers, not by choice, but we are graduates. He should apologize. Actually, not Senyonyi. It is you, Musisi, who talked about chapati sellers.
I duly and unreservedly apologize.
It
wasn't meant in bad faith. It was an example of positioning. I say that Kenneth, who works here in an environment of SC and all, may and another person who works in a different environment, may tend to think that because and Kenneth works here, he's superior and should be the one telling chapati sellers what to do. And I'm saying that if that person defeats you, you shouldn't come and say the populism versus he's a leader who has been chosen. But if it was taken that faith, I unreservedly withdraw it.
Tony Kent has a rising from Mawanda Road, Mulagwan, says, seems rebel MPs shall have to welcome Mpuga. He joins the rebels, but in real opposition. The other rebels are from the ruling party, the NRM, and now it seems from the opposition we are getting another rebel MP. Emmanuel writes in and says, I think it's disrespectful to Mr. Sebalu to insinuate that Honorable Kyagulanyi is immature and unreasonable. This kind of condescending language doesn't solve the issue. Secondly, I don't think Honorable Mpuga is really interested in a fair hearing, given his declining of several attempts by the party to have him heard. That's Emma listening in from Namasuba. Another comment, thanks for the show. Jacob from Kirinya, NUP's position on Mpuga is autolysis. It will decline grossly in 2026. Watch the space. Somebody thinks that as we get closer to the next election, this stance by NUP will actually win out. Kaiwa Haruna writes and says, Mpuga rushed to overtake his big boss. Is that the issue? Did he overtake the big boss there and led to this friction. Then we have another comment. NUP and other oppositions like FDC are not ready to take over leadership. They are still squabbling for breadcrumbs. And he puts in the bracket Mugongo Wazi. They can't handle national issues. That's say more sophisticated political issues. NUP is a waste of time. That's a comment coming in from Stan there. And lastly, maybe a comment on this issue. This has showed that Kyagulanyi needs some coaching in leadership. Those are issues that will be settled internally within the party. That is a comment coming in from James Kayondo. Now, before we leave this topic, I would like to ask you, Mosisi, what is you're going to comment to them. What is the aim of NUP in pursuing Mpuga to this level?
What is the level? What level? I'm talking. If you say that in pursuing
Please
Mpuga,
just
and
answer.
that is why, I'm answering your question. It's not a yes or no, Kenneth. That's why I'm saying that it's you people who are calling it witch hunt. What was the aim of NUP in nominating Mpuga for commissioner 3 months ago?
All right, let me ask you, what do you want to achieve? Maybe let me
the
put
position
it,
has been made clear. They are
softly.
saying, the party is saying, what you did, this participation doesn't augur with your values. That is the point. Simple as that. So before you call it aiming, targeting, witch hunt, this same party nominated him 3 months ago to be commissioner. Was that part of the witch hunt? So let us not act as if this has just started. He's threatening the power. But if a person was threatening you, why did you nominate him to go to commissioner 3 months ago? 2.5 months ago. What was that part of the witch hunt? So for me, I think I would rather discuss what the facts are. And that's why I'm saying that the party has made the position that this is what. And if even Honorable Mpuga, the issues is raising, of course, in your defense, when they accuse you of theft, you can't say, but you also stole, because that's what the debate is saying. But these issues can also be raised. He can raise them. And then, I gave an example the other day. There are so many people who say, NUP sold party cards. And I'm saying, Kenneth, you're a journalist. I don't know if they've interviewed someone who said, I gave so and so money to get a card. And then, let's
not
crucify
a card, a ticket.
A ticket, yes. And then crucify them and say, how comes there's this evidence, but you've never acted? Because that has also, there's always been allegations about MPs, by the way, throughout the 2.5 years. But some of them unsubstantiated, some of them without evidence. But the fact that this is here, and the party is saying this, I would rather we deal with that whether the principle is right, the principle, not the person, the line of thinking is right or not. So let us not target individuals.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Sarah Birete as we wind up discussion on this issue. Honorable Mike Sabalu, you'll be coming on next.
Well, the few comments that came in is that we are the problem, me and the Honorable Sebaru, that we are not telling people.
You're not too practical.
What the problem is. I thought we were here with clear topics. We are discussing the squabbles in NUP. We are discussing.
And the person is saying you are discussing from the surface. Go deeper and look at the real cause of the issue. And they seem to suggest a number of issues there, including NRM, Museveni, Speaker Among, and they're saying those are the key ingredients that you need to look at.
Well, in the issue of NUP saga, really, NUP Mpuga saga, the person being named, that's why I said that the scene of crime is Parliament. I don't think anybody outside Parliament has been named in that saga. But the citizens are entitled to their opinions. So we discuss a topic as is set, and we share our views and opinions to the best of our understanding. We are not, you can't preserve everyone, really. But there's an interesting comment related to that. Is opposition ready to take over leadership? In my view, I think we have a challenge which is twofold. One is the context. Really, opposition in Uganda works through very difficult situations. The same applies to NGOs working on governance, but the situation of political parties is really more complex than the space of NGOs. So we understand the hardships that they work with, the human rights violations, the kidnaps that are unresolved, because a few people have continued to go missing. It's not that kidnaps have ever stopped in Uganda. People continue to go missing. People are arrested. Some are dumped without no charge. They go missing after 1 week, 2 weeks. Social media activism, the person trends, then they are dumped in a swamp or somewhere in a forest. So these abuses cannot enable them to operate well. They are also constrained in terms of raising finances to be able to do their work. But away from that, I think then the grasshopper phenomenon applies more to opposition parties because of the infighting. Even something that wouldn't have been heavier on a party, like I'm saying, the issue of Mpuga, the crime scene is parliament. So you wouldn't expect a party to go up in flames because of something, yes, by one of their members, but in another environment. You wonder why this crisis was invited full throttle into the party. I think really that could have been avoided. They could still have avoided the same end of promoting their zero tolerance to corruption, but without putting the party into controversy. I think that could have been avoided. So when will NUP decline? We had already discussed that NUP performance in Uganda. It will be an interesting space to watch, because when you start fighting in your own stronghold, you have a lot to lose than any other person. So how they handle the matter, knowing that they are dealing now, you are dealing with Uganda as your stronghold as a party, you are dealing with the vice president of Uganda. Are you saying that the time he has been there, he has no following to be treated like that? There's a time in Bushenyi, if I may use my local example, ministers from Bushenyi were fired on radio in the early years of NRM, and there was a pending visit of the vice president. They fired the ministers, then included Honorable Kijuka, and the Bushenyi district stopped the visit. They told the president, "You're not going to come here until you explain why you chased our sons over radio." There was no process that they understood. And an explanation had to happen. People had to be redeployed. Then the visit was allowed. Otherwise, the district council blocked the visit.
All right. Let's hear from Dr. Mike Sebalu very quickly.
Thank you. There are two areas that I want to respond to. Richard, who is saying we are a problem, that is very interesting because I think we've done justice. We've questioned the status quo within. We've even given some good advice.
It seems to suggest that the challenges NUP is facing are coming from the outside.
Because from this debate, we've been able to give, for instance, when we are in this studio and question the positioning of MPs within the structures, given the strategic leadership they offer as representatives of the party who create the scenario of the party being funded from national coffers. They give contributions, and they are national leaders, and they are not anywhere within the party structures. When we raise that, and we even propose suggestions of how that can be accommodated, that does not make us the bad boys and girls. If anything, we need to be applauded and appreciated. But one thing is that we have internal weaknesses within all the parties. Even NRM has its own weaknesses, which we work on internally. You find that in NRM, we've been able to accommodate people who come from other parties without too much mistrust, and accommodate them and even give them good placements. Yeah. That is something that this party can learn from, that even from the DP bloc. When you get people and you give them positions, support them, encourage them, cheer them up, work with them. Then, so Richard, we are not a problem. But there is Emma. I want to respond to Emma. Nowhere in my discussion did I mention the name of Robert Kyagulanyi. All I stated is that the president. You implied. And I don't have any regrets for this. Okay. When I say that let's amend the constitution, and the president of the winning party becomes the leader of opposition, so that we insulate that office from dynamics outside that render Parliament. The president almost irrelevant, and yet the delegated person has a platform, has a profile, has a budget. So for me, I'm looking at the lacuna.
All right.
And whoever is in that office, you need to be mature, to be outside the parliament, and you are not brought into the dynamics of who is leading parliament on your behalf.
All right.
So,
Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90.
Addressed to an
Let's go for the break. When we return, we will go to our next topic of discussion, which is the state of the economy and the budget. But we'll also be discussing the decision by the executive actually to cut by half the budget of Parliament. Stay tuned. Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra continues after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
You announced I would have appointed a select committee.
Well, as you can hear, it's hot here in the studio,
course.
not in terms of
But
temperature, but because of the arguments that are going on. But we have to move on from this topic. We have to move on from this topic.
Of course not, but with fact.
Well, gentlemen and ladies, this is an issue that is still evolving, and we'll have an opportunity to have a say on it probably in the near future. So let's calm down and shift our attention to the next topic. Well, yesterday in Parliament, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development indicated that our next national budget will be 58.3 trillion shillings. And the key priorities, almost the same like of this budget: peace and security, road maintenance and construction of strategic roads. We are going to do the standard gauge railway. We are going to increase electricity transmission, create more wealth by funding the initiatives. There will be also scaling up in terms of manufacturing, in line with the theme of the budget, which talks also about industrialization. One of the key highlights in this budget is actually slashing of the parliamentary budget by half. The budget had grown from 834 billion in the financial year 2021-2022 to 900 billion shillings this financial year. Now, the Minister of Finance says they are cutting it down. We also saw during that sitting of Parliament, MPs went bare knuckle, attacked the Secretary to Treasury, Ramadan Gobi, who apparently had something to say about the power of Parliament in terms of appropriating the budget. And I think it was the background to discussing the issue of slashing the budget of Parliament and the likely implications that would come out of this. Well, Parliament has protested and saying you can't touch our budget to that level. I'll begin with you, Dr. Sarah Birete. Your take on this issue.
Well, the priorities of the national budget sound good. As always, the budget looks better on paper, but when it comes to implementation, then you check the value addition after the end of the budget cycle and you can hardly trace it. I wish the Ministry of Finance, which reads public expenditures, could emphasize that expenditures remain the way they are budgeted for, but also there is value for money for a taxpayer. Because these two, there's usually a lot of distortion after the budget has passed. First, with that 3% flexibility to change the budget allocations, but also then the supplementary budgets that distort the whole purpose of a national budget in our current context. When it comes to the issue of Parliament, given what Ugandans witnessed in terms of wastage and abuse by the institution of Parliament, I think even the deduction could go up, should have been by 60%. Because I think about 60% of money in the parliamentary budget is wasted or abused under the guise of charity, under the guise as if Parliament is a charity organization. The functions of Parliament are clearly stipulated in the Article 79 of the Constitution. Legislate, appropriate, we conduct oversight, but also as they do that, we know they do benchmarking, which I suggest now under the frugal arrangement should be digital. Because you can do benchmarking digitally, including scheduling digital meetings with your counterparts wherever they are located. The only travels that Parliament should do are travels to do with the African Parliamentary Association, in my view, and the Interparliamentary Union, because those are mandatory meetings.
There's also Commonwealth.
Of parliaments, and maybe Commonwealth. So those are 3 organs. The rest of benchmarking should be done using digital technology. to cut down expenditure.
Digital
It's
technology
important-
can also be expensive. Keep that in mind.
No, but the parliament has a full budget, digital budget, including some of the MPs attending daily on Zoom, even if it is
increased. It is a same.
even one day per diem is enough to cover the cost of a digital meeting. It's even more than enough. 1 day's per diem of one MP. So you can't even compare the two. So I think for me that the bonanza in parliament should come to an end. The so-called corporate responsibility budget should be cut down to zero because the parliament is not a charitable organization.
You want the speaker to be invited for a function and to go empty-handed?
Should
There should be a provision for a donation.
But there's bonanza of donations in the country. And that goes to other bonanzas of donations. Prime Minister, Sijui, what? These donations should be eliminated in our budgets. Because government is not a charity organization. But because government has failed to offer effective services to the people. That's why now they themselves, individual elected leaders, are the service providers. They need to build the hospital, they need to build the school. These are functions of the executive. They are not functions of individual members in the parliament. So the parliament should focus on its core mandate.
All right, let's hear from Mr. George Musisi. Your take on this issue of the national budget. We are told somehow that when it comes to this kind of issues, NUP is never serious. You are not grounded on issues of policy, budget, etc.
Well, the people who say that need to be examined. But I don't want to go into the cheap debate. One, the whole debate, the bigger debate, and Kenneth, we were here some time back talking about the issue of appropriations of government funds. First of all, this debate, every time there's a very serious debate, it's caught up in the politics, sadly. Secondly, every time there's a debate regarding parliament emoluments and their own budget, you have unanimity of opinion and you have all sorts of emotions, like you saw in the House yesterday. I don't agree with the PSST, and I know this has been a debate that has been going on for a while, when they says that parliament has no role in appropriation. Legally, I disagree with that, but I know there's been a lot of ping pong, even with the last budgeting process. So that is for the foundation. Secondly, is there? I see this as a way of the executive's response to the so-called rot or the mismanagement of funds that has come out in Parliament. Because I don't think that the PSST may have made, because it's something that...
How is that possible? The other day we saw the president in Bukedea actually saying people were attacking the Speaker of Parliament were misguided.
Kenneth, you've been here long enough, I know. We were in the trenches in 2016 when the president praised General Kayihura as being one of the best IGPs he's had, and 4 months later he was arrested. So I would rather deal with, because I don't think that the PSST could have made these insinuations without coming from somewhere. So I don't want to imagine that this is the response by having an omnibus cutting. Yes, there's a lot of mismanagement in the budget of Parliament. I learned recently that the 905 billion you quoted, over 200 billion is travel alone. And you know that government has had problems. Even the last time they were saying that we need to cut down on our external travels. The president has been clear on that for the last 2 years. So is there mismanagement? Yes, there is. But if you do this omnibus cutting, what areas are you affecting? Because I would rather not have the omnibus cutting when you're affecting even some crucial areas, and then Parliament says, okay, this little that is left is only for our emoluments. Because there are so many other areas where Parliament needs the money. So for me, if this is government's response to the mismanagement, to all the things that have been flying around, I think that it can be done better. But whether Parliament has a role to appropriate, yes, I think Parliament has a role, but in tandem with the executive, because when the executive brings the estimates, then Parliament can appropriate within the resource envelope. So I want to imagine that there should still be a sober discussion. Let the executive legislature sit, know the resource envelope available, know the priority areas, and know how to allocate. This anger and mixture of emotions, like I saw, it's turning action, because I even saw the speaker saying, I'm going to write a warning letter to the PSST. But the speaker is not the supervisor of the PSST. The other day we were quarreling with the president for writing a letter to the CJ ordering. So how can the head of another arm write to this person saying I'm sending a warning letter. But like I mentioned, when it comes to allowances, monies, tempers are always high, and there's always unanimity. Some people are even questioning the PSST's credentials in Parliament, and that who even examined them. But I was like, just imagine if we're examining the credentials of MPs, how many would weigh? Yes.
That's interesting there. Dr. Mike Sebalu, your take on this issue of the budgeting and the stance the Minister of Finance seems to be taking on the budget of Parliament, where you did serve at one point.
Thank you very much. I think we need to look at the big picture. We shouldn't just go for the statements as they were. We need to look at the wider perspective. One, we are running a budget that is a post-COVID budget, with all the disruptions that was occasioned by COVID. We ran a budget within the wider spectrum of a disrupted global economy, the dynamics of the war in Ukraine and all that. We are running a budget against the background that I'm going to share with you. Number of taxpayers per income group. You know, we have those that earn or that get an income of 50 million to 500 million. In that number was 10,562 in terms of number. That has drastically reduced to 1,784. That means a drop in taxation. We had those that earn 500 to 1 billion. There were 1,958. As we speak, there are only 191. Those that were earning 1 billion to 5 billion were 2,912. Right now, there are 773. Those earning 5 billion to 10 billion were 711. Right now, there are only 58. Those earning 10 billion to 50 billion were 871. Right now, there are 63. Those earning 50 billion to 100 billion were 130. Right now, there are 3, a mere 1, 2, 3. Then those of 500 billion and above were 125. Right now, they are just 5. Now, against such a background, it clearly shows you that there is a funding gap from the taxes that we do earn, and that needs to be reflected in the manner of utilization of what you are able to get.
All right. Not in terms of Parliament. Parliament is a self-accounting institution.
But you need to look at it from the background of the entire economy, and you are able to appropriate to be able to make good in all aspects and invest more in areas that are productive, that generate wealth and generate more revenue. So what we need to look at is efficiency and effectiveness of utilizing the little that we do have. And to do that, you need to block the leakages and the hemorrhage where it is identified. We need to appreciate the core mandate of Parliament: representative, legislative, and oversight. Appropriation is one of the ways that Parliament gives the legal effect, but it is not part of their core mandate, and we need to appreciate that. So, for any measures to be put in place by the Ministry of Finance in terms of cost sharing, we simply need to appreciate it, and we need to play ball. All we need to ask is, how do we support such austerity measures to allow a functional budget process? There is a process already in Parliament of harmonization of government ministries, departments, and agencies. And the core reason behind that is cost cutting, to ensure that we spend in a more optimal way. So for me, it's not only Parliament, all departments have been affected. What we need to be all preoccupied with is how best do we use the little available to create a good return on that investment. And this should apply. Parliament is one of the arms of government. All arms are affected. Parliament should be cooperative in supporting cost-cutting measures to allow the economy function. First of all, the ministry is trying to cut down the borrowing. You know what we are going through with the borrowing and the interest that we have. So any measures that curtails borrowing and allows us to operate within the resource envelope should be appreciated by all progressive leaders. But it should be done scientifically. Just saying 50%, maybe you need to go a little deeper and work out the numbers proportionately, not to again overturn the work of Parliament, but the principle of all of us appreciating that we need to cut costs and allow government to function optimally using its own resources. I've just read to you the cash, the flow of revenue that has gone down because some companies have closed, some have gone out of production, and those are the main sources of the revenue that we get through taxation. So we need to look at all these factors and appreciate that we are in a bad situation. How do we make it better? How do we make the best out of the situation we have? And cost-cutting measures are universal. Even in the US, even in all economies are trying to operate in the most efficient and most effective, applying technology, using innovative ways of delivering service, being very creative. I think we are no exception. We need to play ball.
All right, Dr. Sarah Birete, you earlier talked about how the budget looks rosy on paper, but when it comes to implementation, that's where is the problem. What are some of the challenges that you see that can or continue to frustrate the total implementation or the full implementation of the national budget to bear the fruits that are anticipated from it?
Well, one of the key challenges is the obvious one, corruption. And it cuts across all sectors of government. It's not that it's just in Parliament like we were discussing. We have had scandals of our hospital, Karamoja. Finally, the ministers of Karamoja Iron Sheet saga were punished in the cabinet reshuffle. And the
Luvoa Hospital has also started the construction.
Finally, I hear the foundation is now happening after 4 years. We are supposed to be using the hospital, but they are finally laying the foundation after exhausting all the taxpayers' money. I hope that Engineer Chugundu will be able to deliver on that. In addition to what Honorable Sebaru has shared, the shrinking, tax base. Out of the money that was estimated, 28 trillion estimated to be generated through domestic revenues, only 69% has been realized. That is a shortfall of about 31% in terms of domestic revenues. When it comes to our public debt, we are now above the 100 trillion mark because the Auditor General's report of June 2023 puts our public debt at 97.3, and we have since borrowed money including the 7.7 trillion in December, so we are way above the 100 trillion mark, and that is quite worrying. We have unpaid, the arrears from domestic borrowers that is crippling businesses. If you look at the businesses winding up, the contractors are not being paid, and once you have contractors who are not being paid, every other extra day attracts more invoice. Each time the equipment is on the road and is not working, the taxpayer is losing money. So all these, contribute to the non-functionality or not very good functionality of the budget. And we need to do more closer monitoring of the budget cycle to see what else can be done. But also in addition to this, the loss of trust citizens are looking for, first of all, we have higher taxation. You know, a more, I don't know how to, horizontal taxation regime. No, it's vertical. Because the people are paying tax, are paying more tax. I saw data from government saying we have 54 big payers of pay-as-you-earn tax. 54. Pay-as-you-earn has also declined. And it was shared by one of the experts.
All right.
And so when you have this shrinking economy, in addition, the funding, the loan resources after the suspension of World Bank has also narrowed down. And the government has been saying they are renegotiating with the World Bank to resume funding, including taking the clauses that had led to the funding under the inclusivity clause as a condition for World Bank funding. So it's like government is in a tight spot to the extent that they will agree to the issues that could have led to the suspension of World Bank funding. All right, these are challenges that the executive is grappling with.
All right, we have some comments coming in on this particular topic of the budget. Good evening, Spectrum Extra. Parliamentary budget cut has been long overdue. We need the corporate social responsibility of Parliament removed and that money appropriated in other sectors. I honestly agree with the lady on the forum. Parliamentary budget has been so much abused and the cut is imminent. That is Roger listening in from PG. We have another comment, Abe Kwizera, who actually writes in very long submission here. He says, hello, Spectrum, thanks for the show. I'm Abe Kwizera at Kawempe, Ketfalau. My concern is about the financial parliamentary appropriations. Why are we even here discussing the 500 million shillings given to Honorable Mpuga without talking about the biggest share of the loot taken by, he puts it there, Honorable Anita Among. Allegedly, we'll say allegedly, because there has not been an investigation to conclusively arrive on that particular point. Wilson Bikakanga writes in and says, good evening, Kenneth and the panelists in studio. My name is Wilson Bikakanga Mienga. We have lost trust in the parliament and this is very unfortunate. In this, the PSST is very right, considering that parliament has abused the mandate of oversight and determination of its emoluments. The problem comes as a result of having got a positive nod from the president, in which case now they will squander even more. By the way, who checks the excesses of parliament? That's a question there. He lives with us. Another question. Hi, Kenneth Amos. Dr. Sarah seems to be close to the microphone. Okay, we'll have that rectified. Thank you very much for the feedback. Then we have another comment coming in from a listener here who says, I am with the PSST on the issue of cutting Parliament's budget to 50%. Mr. Ramadan Govi, go ahead, and he signs there. That's his name there. The listener sent in a comment. Then we have a comment coming in from Grace Kabanda. Good evening, Kenneth. Let me thank Mr. Joel Senyonyi for the good work in his office. That is Grace Kabanda there with that comment. Well, we are running out of time, but I'll give you an opportunity for your closing remarks. I'll begin with you, Honorable Dr. Mike Sebalu.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the issue of the budget, we are mid-term. We are coming to the end of the tenure, and I think government has it in terms of being accountable to the population that gave it mandate on the basis of the manifesto. We need to see more service delivery. We need to see projects that are productive in nature. I'm very glad the road to Nakauka, Kasanje, Mpiji and Chisubi was launched yesterday. Those are the kind of things that the population wants to hear of. If you ever put the issue of the parliamentary budget on a referendum, you'd be seriously overwhelmed by the kind of results that you'd get. So let's be productive. Let Parliament be facilitated to do its core mandate of representative, legislative and oversight. Let the social corporate responsibilities be undertaken by the respective ministries, departments and agencies, because they are budgeted for to do exactly that.
All right.
If you are Parliament and you go into schools and other areas, the Ministry of Education should be accountable for that purpose. So let's fund ministries and departments and agencies appropriately for them to execute their mandate, both in spirit and letter.
All right.
And we get service delivery being the end of the day.
Dr. Sarah Bilete, in a few seconds, your closing remarks?
Well, one on the issue of NUP, I wish they could champion reconciliation or common ground in their engagements, even as they push for their values and they try to discipline and keep their members in check. On the issue of parliament, as a taxpayer, we want to see really value for money, for taxpayers' money and the proper usage of taxpayers' funds.
All right.
And as I sign out, I want to wish the listeners a very happy and peaceful Easter.
Very quickly, in a few seconds, Mr. George Musisi.
Just want to join issue with Dr. Mike. Yes, on the issue of Parliament, that yes, as everyone else is cost cutting, as you are telling people efficiency, they should also be self-reflecting and also imagine that they need to rationalize, they need to cut down. But yes, let it not be done omnibus.
All right.
Let us look at the particular budgets, especially those which have been prone to abuse.
All right.
And reduce on them. I also wish Ugandans great Easter holidays.
All right, with that, we come to the end of Spectrum Extra. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, dear panelists, for being part of this. From me and the entire production crew, we wish you a very good Easter festive season.
Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. An extra hour of analysis and discussion of the topical issues of the week. Brought to you by Housing